It's the middle of June, so today we're going to have a cup of tea and talk about the history of the summer solstice. Usually falling somewhere between the 19th and the 23rd of June, the summer solstice is the peak of summer, quite literally the longest day of the year. But what are its authentic origins? Recognition of the solstice genuinely is ancient. Neolithic communities' existence was entirely tied to agriculture, and long before written history, they learned to track the sun's movement so that they could understand when the best time to plant their crops would be. And to do this, they erected these incredible stone structures. The most famous example, of course, is Stonehenge. Built between 3000 and 2000 BCE, its stones are perfectly aligned with the summer solstice sunrise. Recognition of this solar event is also recorded in ancient Egypt. The solstice coincided with the rising of the star Sirius, another naturally occurring repeating event, and the flooding of the River Nile, which was vital for farming. Egyptians would celebrate by worshipping the goddess Isis, believing that her tears were the reason that the river overflowed and fertilized the crops. The Great Pyramids of Giza were constructed so that if you stand at the Sphinx on the solstice, the sun sets exactly between the two largest pyramids. As civilizations grew, the solstice evolved from a practical agricultural marker into more complex festivals. The ancient Greeks used the solstice to mark the start of their new year, celebrating Chronia, a festival dedicated to Kronos, the god of agriculture. During this, social hierarchies were temporarily suspended, meaning all classes of people feasted together as equals. Throughout the Roman Empire, Vestalia would be held in mid-June to honour Vesta, goddess of the hearth, representing the eternal flame that sustained the Roman people. While ancient Chinese farmers measured the sun shadows as early as 1600 BCE, by 104 BC, it was an official date on the imperial calendar system. During the Song dynasty between 960 and 1279 CE, it was such a massive event that government officials were given a 3-day holiday to celebrate it. During the Iron Age and early Middle Ages, Celtic, Germanic and Slavic tribes celebrated the solstice with massive bonfires. Bonfire is actually a literal translation of the Middle English word bonfire, named as they were literally burning bones. During the Middle Ages, Christianity began to spread across Europe, and the Church needed to strategically integrate existing pagan solar festivals into the Christian calendar, a process known as syncretism. The summer solstice was rebranded to honour the birth of St. John the Baptist. Traditional bonfire rituals continued but became St. John's fires, symbolising a saint who was described as a burning and shining light. But despite the Christian rebrand, traditional folklore continued to flourish. In European folklore, because the solstice marks a point of transition, it's not just the longest day, it's the thinnest night. Communities lit hilltop bonfires, believing the smoke would purify the air, ward off malevolent spirits, and prevent crop failure. Young couples would hold hands and jump over the dying embers of bonfires, hoping to clear them without letting go of each other, which prophesied a successful marriage. Medicinal plants like Hypericum, which later picked up the name St. John's wort, would bloom and were said to reach peak potency on the solstice night. On Midsummer's Eve, fairies, sprites and elves were believed to pass freely into our world, dancing in fields and playing tricks on unsuspecting humans. In Shakespeare's play A Midsummer's Night Dream, written around 1595, he took clear inspiration from this British folklore, devising a plot where humans wander into a fairy forest on the night of the solstice. Between 1200 and 1700 CE, indigenous Americans built stone medicine wheels with spokes that aligned to both the summer solstice sunrise and sunset, as well as specific stars, including Sirius. While the structural components of the sun dance are ancient, the ceremony as a unified large-scale intercultural gathering actually occurred during the 18th and 19th centuries. Today, while traditional midsummer festivals remain a national holiday in Scandinavia and the Baltics, marked by maples and flower crowns, the solstice has also seen a mainstream revival. Thousands gather annually at Stonehenge to watch the sunrise, treating the day as a celebration of nature, community and the environment. Neo-paganism takes inspiration from a lot of different spiritual practices, and sometimes these reinterpretations aren't historically accurate. While we don't know the exact prehistoric origin or intention behind the maypole, we do know the maypole dancing, as we recognise it today, was heavily romanticised and redesigned during the Victorian era. Although the use of the word Litha for the summer solstice did originate with an 8th century Anglo-Saxon word, meaning gentle or navigable, originally referring to the mild weather months in June and July, The word actually faded completely from use after the Norman conquest. It wasn't reintroduced until the 1970s by modern Wiccans seeking a historical sounding name for a summer solstice on their wheel of the year. In modern neo-pagan folklore, the year is often split between two rival entities, the Oak King and the Holly King. The summer solstice represents their clash, where the Oak King reaches his peak but is defeated by the Holly King. While many assume this is a Celtic myth, this was actually popularised in the 20th century, and it's a perfect example of how we continue to weave new stories into ancient history. Science backs the existence of solstices, confirming it's driven by two planetary factors: the Earth's axial tilt and its orbital path around the Sun. Earth does not orbit the Sun perfectly upright. Our planet rotates on a tilted axis. As Earth completes its year-long journey around the Sun, this tilt means that for half the year, the northern hemisphere is angled toward the Sun, and for the other half, it's angled away. This is why some areas of the world actually experience their winter solstice in June. We often see humanity in disagreement and war, so to see a consistent pattern of recognition for a solar event that's happening thousands of years apart in different places all around the world is deeply refreshing. While I too am drawn to the idea of recreating ancient practices, it's important to understand that when it comes to prehistoric beliefs and paganism, we will most likely never have a perfectly clear understanding of what these ancient communities' exact intentions were, and sometimes we should take a step back and separate hard information from modern interpretation. As historian Ronald Hutton points out in his books Pagan Britain and Stations of the Sun, if we look at what the physical architecture at Stonehenge reveals, it actually indicates a primary focus on the winter solstice, not the summer. The giant stones inside Stonehenge are not uniform. The 5 large stones are arranged in a strict horseshoe that increases in height, intentionally drawing your eye to face the midwinter sunset. When prehistoric people walked up the ancient earthwork avenue leading into Stonehenge, they were walking directly towards the setting winter sun. And from a human survival standpoint, this makes total sense. Midsummer in farming is notoriously a time of intense labour, not leisure. The harvest hasn't yet taken place. It wouldn't make sense to leave your vulnerable crops unattended and travel to a party at Stonehenge. If people did gather in summer, it would most likely be locals, performing rituals to protect their crops. Midsummer is easy, life is abundant. But the winter solstice is when life is hard, resources are dwindling, and reassuring rituals of the sun's return become a necessity for survival. This doesn't mean that modern day celebrations serve no purpose. Emphasis now lies on love for and appreciation of the earth, so the peak of summer is a perfect time to revel in the sun's energy as a genuine source of our existence. The truth is, the sun does give us life, and we should recognise that, just as our ancestors have done for thousands of years. But if we're going to redefine what the summer solstice means to us, we need to recognise that neo-paganism is inspired, not strictly defined, by the exact practices of the people before us. Thank you for watching.